feet and a light unto my path. Unto my path. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path.
Welcome to Searchlight, a survey through Scripture with Pastor John Corson. It is our desire to bring you a systematic study of the entire Bible, chapter by chapter, book by book. It has been said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Pictures speak to us in a way that words sometimes can't. We are seeing that this is very true as we are traveling through the book of Genesis. Recently, we've been looking at the story of Noah and the flood and have found many pictures that apply to our walk with the Lord. Our program today is the conclusion of a verse-by-verse study through Genesis chapters 7 and 8. As we join John, he is showing us how one of these pictures has prophetic implications. Here is Pastor John.
He stayed, verse 10, yet 7 more days, and again he sent forth the dove for a second time. And the dove came into him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off. And Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. Verse 12, he stayed yet another 7 days, and sent forth the dove, which returned not again unto him any more. Oh, for you guys that are into Bible prophecy, this is powerful. The dove was released on 3 different days. 3 days. The first day, the dove comes right about, circling around. Noah brings him in. The second day that he's released, the dove comes with an olive branch in his mouth. Noah now knows that things are drying out. The third day, Noah knew, hey, the new world has surfaced. It's a new day. The floods have gone away because the dove didn't come back. Why day number 3? Why the third day? Oh, there was a week between each one of these releases, but 3 days in totality. 2 days, the dove was there, visible, seen. The third day, it was a new day. I suggest to you, for you students of prophecy, it's because of this. Jesus rose again from the dead 2,000 years ago. The Bible says a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years. 1,000 years is as a day. 2 days. The work of the Spirit, you betcha. It's been going on. The work of the Spirit has been available to people. Yes, 2 days. But something is going to happen on the third day. The third millennium, if you would, from the time of Christ. The third day, something happens. On the third day, in Jesus' day, literally on the third day, he rose again. On the third day, as it relates to God's calendar eschatologically, something's going to happen. When's the third day? Well, if 1,000 years are as a day, and a day is 1,000 years, we've already gone through 2 days. And at the dawning of the next millennium, which is a couple of years away, we now enter into the third day, a new earth, just like at this time on the third release, there was the surfacing of a new earth. A new earth, what do you mean a new earth? The millennial kingdom. When sin, man, the repercussions are reversed. When the lion lies down by the lamb. When men study war no more. When Jesus Christ rules and reigns in Jerusalem. Listen, I know we're late. Just jot this verse down. I'll read it to you. You say, John, that's a stretch. I don't think so. In Hosea chapter 6. In Hosea chapter 6, the Jewish people, the nation Israel, cries out collectively, verse 1 and 2. Hosea 6, I'll read it to you. Listen carefully. Come, let us return to the Lord, for he hath torn us, and he will heal us. He hath smitten us, but he will bind us up. The Jewish people say, we've been smitten and torn because we've rejected the Lord, essentially. And then verse 2 says, after 2 days, he will revive us. In the third day, he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. 2 days, after 2 days, yes, we've been torn, the Jewish people say. We've been smitten, the Jewish people declare. Because we rejected him, so now we accept the consequences. We have been smitten and torn, and the Jewish nation has, and the Jewish people have. But they say, but after 2 days, he will revive us. After 2,000 years, we will be revived. And the Jewish people are back in the land, and they're about to be revived spiritually. What do you mean? Revelation chapter 7, 144,000 Jewish evangelists, 12,000 from each tribe, fans out across Israel and ultimately throughout the world. And all of Israel shall at that time, in the tribulation, after the rapture, first we're taken to heaven, the rapture, then comes 7 years called the tribulation. All of Israel during that time, those that go through that time and make it to the end of that time, Romans chapter 9, 10, and 11 declares to you and me that all of Israel shall be saved, revived. So what are you suggesting, John? For 2 days, the Jewish people have been torn. For 2,000 years, they had not a homeland. But the time is here when now they're back in their country once more, and they're about to be revived spiritually because the rapture is at hand. In the 3rd day, we shall be revived. But wait, it intrigues me even more. For you see, the next verse says this, back to our text in Genesis 8. It came to pass in the 600th year, that is Noah's 600th year, the first year, the first month, the first day of the month, the waters were dried up from off the face of the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. When? Noah is 600 years old, but wait, he's 601. That means he's in the 7th, what? Century of his life. 7 is the number of completion. What? See, it's not only been 2 days since Christ rose again. And the 3rd day, around the year 2000, is when Israel is going to be revived. They're going to be saved, which means that's the end of the tribulation, which means we'll be in heaven, which means that's the coming of the kingdom on earth. But listen, Noah saw the new world, if you would, the restored, rejuvenated earth in the first year, on the first month, at the first day of the 7th century of his life. 600 years had gone by. At the beginning of the 7th century, boom, he looks around. Hey, the world is restored. The world is renewed. The world is rejuvenated. Because that's always the way it is in God's word. 7 is significant. 6 days men work. On the 7th day, it is the what? The Sabbath, the rest. 6 years men are in slavery according to the Old Testament law if they're slaves. But at the beginning of the 7th year, they are what? Set free. And on we could talk about this. We won't. But suffice it to say, 6 days, rest. 6 years of slavery, 7th year, set free at the beginning. 600 years, Noah worked away. On the beginning, at the beginning of the 7th century of his life, he looks out and the world is restored and renewed. What are you suggesting? If you trace back the genealogies, you realize that Adam was on the scene right around the year 4000 BC. 4000 BC. 4000 BC plus, we're coming to the year what? 2000 AD. What is 4 plus 2? 6. 6,000 years of human history from the biblical account. 6,000 years. 1,000 years is as a day is as 1,000 years. 6 days. Which means at the year 2000, thereabouts, we enter into the 7th day. The day of what? Rest. The 7th year, the day of freedom from the slavery of sin and depravity. Do you think it's going to happen at the very beginning then of the 7th millennia, which is coming up in a couple of years? All I know is it came to pass in the first year, the first month, the first day of that month, in Noah's 7th century, that he looked around and he saw This is the way the world's supposed to be. The junky stuff is washed away in the judgment of God. It's a new day. It's a picture of the kingdom. Amen. Do you think it's going to be then on the first day of the first month of the first year in this new millennium? Wouldn't that be grand? Will it be? I don't know. We can't be that exacting. The Bible doesn't give us that liberty, and the genealogical records are not that clear. But I suggest to you, we're getting really, really close. And let those who wish to call us, people that are mad about the millennium or whatever it might be. That doesn't bother me. Let those scoff and mock and say there's nothing significant around the bend. I would say they're just fulfilling prophecy. In the last days, scoffers will come saying, where is the promise of his coming? All things continue even as they have from creation. Peter the apostle said that's what they'll say in the last day. I do believe that we're at the end of this age, that the Lord's coming is near at the very door. Will it be January 1st, 2000? Don't know. I don't know. Will it be around there sometime? That's what I think. Who knows when? But I think the Lord's coming is near. And I love these prophecy pictures and all these intricate details. These things were written not just to give us answers to trivia questions on the scoop. These things were written to give us instruction about God's prophetic plan. These things were written to give us hope. Hope for what? Hope when you're bouncing around in your barge, when you're going through your storms, when you're on the ark. God says to you and me, take hope. Remember. Do this in remembrance of me. And Jesus told us to do that in remembrance of him. And the Apostle Paul says we do this, and in so doing we are celebrating the Lord's, not only his death previously, but his coming, you see. I love it. I wish we had about 3 hours. You're saying we don't. I know. It came to pass at that time that now the new world appears, the rejuvenated world, just like is going to happen in the kingdom when Jesus comes back for 1,000 years. Things are going to be right at last. The old stuff washed away, the old stuff wiped out. A new day, the kingdom, you see. Fabulous, fabulous. And God spoke to Noah, verse 15, saying, now, after 377 days, God spoke to Noah, saying, verse 16, go. That's why I wanted you to circle this. He said in chapter 7, verse 1, come, and now he says what? Go. Over a year later, now Noah hears the word of the Lord again. First he says, come, now he says, go. That's always the way it is. God says, come unto me. He calls us to come. And then once we come, he says, go. Not get out of here. But he says, now that you've been filled, now that you've taken in, there's stuff to do. There's a new ministry to begin. Noah, come. And Noah was with the Lord as he came into the ark. And now he's going from the ark. Now this intrigues me because, listen carefully. Noah knew the ground was already dry. Why didn't Noah pop out the window and escape? Wouldn't you want to? 377 days with animals bouncing around, and now you're up on a mountain. Wouldn't you say, before this ark tips off, before this ark slides down Mount Ararat, kids, very quietly, get your stuff. And would you kind of like the Von Trapp family singers in Sound of Music, as they snuck away that night, if you can remember that story. I don't know why I thought of that. But I would think Noah would say, like Colonel Von Trapp, kids, get your stuff. We're going to sneak out the window. Don't rock the boat. Don't rock the boat. Whatever you do, we're just going to go. It's dry out there. And he didn't leave. He didn't go until God said to. Now we would say, what's going on? Has he lost his marbles? And this is the key. Noah found what you're going to find. Noah found what you're finding right now. You that are in troubled waters, you that are in storms, you find something. Even though others might say it's confining and what's going on and you have questions, yet you sense the presence of God. Others would say you're confined in this position. But when you're there, you say, you know what? I'm not confined. I'm shut in with God. I might not know what he's doing. I might not hear his voice audibly, but I sense his presence. He's giving me a peace that passes understanding. His presence is around me. I don't know where this boat is going. I don't know exactly what's happening, but somehow in this ark, you might think it's crazy with all the smells and all the sounds of the animals, but something's happening. I have a peace. I'm shut in with God. And I have no intention of wiggling out now that I've been here with him for a season. It's fine with me. And then in due time, God spoke and said, now, you've been with me, now go forth. There's a whole thing out there to get involved in. Listen, I talk about it a lot. It's the key to Christian living. You come into God's presence and you go out with God's power. You come and you go. You come and you go. Come. 377 days later, go. Come. Go. It's like breathing. You got to breathe in and you got to breathe out. If you just take in, you're just going to find yourself full of hot air. If you breathe out, you're going to wither away in exhaustion. You got to breathe in and out. This is the key to Christian living. How simple it is, how essential it is. You take in, you give out. You take in, you give out. You take in, you give out. Come in, and he came in. Go out, and now he's going out. He's going out of the ark. Watch what happens. As he goes out from the ark, he takes his wife, the kids, their wives, and he brings forth all the living creatures, verse 17 and 18. Actually, Noah was not, contrary to common belief, he was not the first one off the ark, because verse 18 says, and Noah went forth. I now know who's awake. And Noah went forth, his sons and his wife, and his sons' wives with him. And every, verse 19, beast and creeping thing and fowl, they also went. And then verse 20. Oh, wow. I would think, what I would do would be, wow, we're free. We're out here. There's a whole new world. Get the frisbee. Grab the picnic baskets. Man, this is grand. That's not what Noah did. And God didn't say, Noah, do this. Noah just did it. It says Noah built an altar unto the Lord and took of every clean beast. How many would that be? Lots. He took one of every clean beast. First thing he does, not built a home for his kids, not talk to his insurance agent about flood coverage, not throw a frisbee with his family. The first thing this guy did, that Noah did, was he builds an altar and he starts sacrificing animals, clean animals, giving God pleasure. That's how I know that he was shut in and enjoyed the presence of God, because he's an altered man. He comes out and what does he do? Doesn't look for a job, doesn't take care of business. Now I would say, Noah, hold on, buddy. What are you doing? There's a whole world to repopulate and you're killing animals. There's a whole world to repopulate with these animals and you're taking limited, valuable resources and you're burning them up. You built this altar. It's a waste of resources, Noah. Oh, I appreciate your sentimentality, but let's get pragmatic. Let's get practical. You can't take an animal this way. There's not very many animals that are with you on this barge. It's a waste. And when I hear myself say that, think that, I realize I'm in very, very bad company. There was another guy that watched resources being poured out. A woman took her alabaster box, didn't she? It was a year's salary in value, and she pours out the contents, perfume, upon Jesus. And a man said, wait a minute, that's a waste of resources. The poor could be helped out with that money. And that man's name who raised that protest was a man named Judas Iscariot. And Jesus rebuked him and said, Judas, pipe down. What she has done unto me. And now I begin to understand God values worship more than work. We think work is the key. God says, no, worship has priority. What did Jesus say to the devil that day? Devil, I'm not going to bow to you. For it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. But did you notice the order? Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God first, and him only shalt thou serve second. If you're a worker, if I'm a worker, and not a worshiper, then we are missing the highest priority. You might not be able to go be a missionary in Africa, or you might not be an evangelist in a big stadium, or you might not be a singer who can put your songs on K-Apple or whatever. But every one of us, every single person in here tonight can do the thing that most blesses God. The highest priority of ministry is not evangelism, not teaching the Bible, not singing songs, not even building buildings. The highest priority is worship. Ezekiel chapter 44. The priests that caused Israel to fall into sin, God says they'll stand before the people and teach the people and minister to the people. But the sons of Zadok, who stayed close to me, they'll come near to me and worship me and offer me the fat and the blood. And suddenly you see from Ezekiel 44 that God says standing before people, giving to people, working with people is punishment in comparison to personal worship and intimacy with Jesus. And you know, you can do that. There's not one person sitting here tonight that can't have the highest ministry. Noah models it. He gets off the ark. How about you? How about me? Some of us will go home tonight and we'll worship God. We'll wake up in the morning and we'll worship the Lord. It's the highest, most precious ministry you will ever do. It will bless you the most. It will honor God in the greatest kind of way. It will alter your life. It'll change who you are. Noah built an altar. He was an altered man. First thing he does when he gets off the ship, amazing to me, he builds an altar. By him, therefore, let us continually offer the sacrifice of praise, the fruit of our lips giving thanks to his name. He built this altar. And the Lord, verse 21, smelled a sweet smell. And the Lord said in his heart, I mean, he just goes, oh, this is awesome. I didn't command Noah to do this. He just loves me. He just comes off the ark and right away he ministers to me. And God says in his heart, I will not again curse the ground anymore for man's sake. I know that the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. I understand that man has evil propensities, that he's depraved in his nature. But catch a whiff of this. Even though men are evil from their youth, and they continue to be carnal and weak, yet, what a blessing.
Just like Noah, you can be a blessing to God right now. Just worship him right where you're at. Worship is our highest form of ministry. If you've been distracted by the turmoil around you and you've been neglecting worship, great news for you. God is not worried about where you have failed. You can simply become an altar builder right now and worship him.
This teaching is also available on the Searchlight website at johncorson.com. You will also find on the website Pastor John's books and other Bible study resources. Again, the address of the website is johncorson.com.
For those of you who are desiring a more in-depth, personal means of studying the Bible, we would like to suggest the John Corson Application Commentary. There are 3 volumes of the commentary, 2 covering the Old Testament and 1 covering the New Testament. The commentaries are based on John's teachings, so they contain the same insightful and practical Bible studies you hear on the Searchlight radio program. If you would like to order any of these commentaries individually or the entire set, you can do so through the Searchlight website or by giving us a call.
Searchlight is a listener-supported ministry. We appreciate your prayers and support. May the Lord richly bless you.